Welcome, Illini fans, to episode 27 of Fighting Illini Live. I am your host, Nate Keogh, coming to you from Chicago once again. I do apologize for the inconsistency lately. I know it was poorly timed with the start of this season. I was traveling all of last week, which is why one missed the regular episode last Wednesday and then had that weird, Saturday edition right before I took off, right? So definitely check that out. It was more like a half episode just talking about the Western Illinois game. And then I was supposed to do the normal show last night. Was feeling under the weather. You probably can still hear it. I have still a little nasally. My voice is not great. And my job is talking all day. So not 100%, but we got a lot of great things to talk about. I'm glad that we can still get this episode out on a rare, actually only, but even more than rare, Thursday edition of Fighting Illini Live. A lot to talk about, obviously, since we were not able to get out a post-game reaction then either with the crazy... There it is, with a crazy schedule. So 3 things I want to hit tonight. Real quick, I want to talk about the soft renaming of Memorial Stadium. I'm sure you've heard about that in the past couple days. Then I'm going to go over my takeaways from that marvelous Duke game. And then we are going to take one final look at Western Michigan before the Illini clash with them for their Week 3 matchup this Saturday. Of course, tonight's episode is brought to you on the Voice of College Football Network. As always, before we get into it, here's a word from our sponsor, Mark Rogers. Or our sponsor, our CEO, Mark Rogers.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click Join, and then select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.
I also do want to mention that we have also partnered with Vault Sports. So I have a promotion for the platform Novik. You can use promo code VOCFBILL, and you can get $50 worth of Novik coins when you spend 5. That is a dang good deal right there. Take advantage of that. Participants must be 21 or older. And if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's get into it tonight, guys. First, not huge news, I would really say, but I definitely think it's worth a mention that Memorial Stadium has been kind of renamed. It's still Memorial Stadium, but basically, if you missed it, on Tuesday, a longtime donor and alum of the school, Larry Gies, made a $100 million donation to the athletic department specifically. It is the largest donation in the athletic department's history. And for that, they are adding his name to Memorial Stadium's name. And its now full name is Gies Memorial Stadium. He was clear that he wanted to keep the name of Memorial Stadium as well, in large part due to he's mainly naming this more for his father than himself. He did say his father is an Army veteran, or was an Army veteran. And this is what he said, this quote from the Illini Athletic website. This gift is about honoring my father, true patriot, and every brave soul who has worn or will wear the uniform to defend our country. With this investment, we can ensure that this stadium continues to be a place where their sacrifices will never be forgotten. A shining light for every American who protects our freedom in the future. End quote. Geese is also the namesake of the School of Business. If you're an alum, you'd be probably familiar with that. That was after he made a $150 million donation in 2017. Nothing but great things to say, of course, as well, from both Brett Bielema and basketball head coach Brad Underwood. I'm sure that they would have nothing but good things to say. That is an incredible donation. Thank you, Larry, for helping our program to continue to strive. I mean, it's already on the way up, already becoming a lot more profitable with the national attention that the Illini have gotten, now a top 10 team, and this donation only helps that. So when you see Geese Memorial Stadium, don't say I didn't warn you. And it is all with good intentions as well. And it's more of a soft renaming. They just, more so added that. And $100 million, that's well deserved. That's unbelievably generous gift, and it's not his first rodeo. So, I mean, what an important alum he has been for the school. All right, guys, let's finally talk about it. Way too late. It has been 5 days since it happened. I was able to catch most of Duke, Illinois, from the Orlando airport. Actually, I watched the conclusion of the game on the Southwest free Wi-Fi. Shout out Southwest Airlines, sponsor me. Illini absolutely ran away with this one in the second half. This was supposed to be the big road test before the Indiana game, right? And boy, did they pass the test. They were only 2.5-point favorites. Very, very close line. Yeah, Duke wasn't ranked, but they certainly were in the conversation to be. And any road game is real tough, especially playing as early as they did too. I mean, it was 11 a.m. Central Time for Illinois, because they played at noon Eastern for Duke. So always nice to, when you're out of your time zone too. I mean, they're pretty used to the Eastern time zone overall, because there's a lot of Big Ten teams there. They're still in, not too bad, I guess, but still, I think it's always worth noting. The first half was actually a 1-point game, though. I mean, this was not, the final score is slightly deceiving. This was a close game for 3 quarters, pretty much. It was 14-13 at the half. And then that's when Illinois just absolutely ran away with it. Duke really was their own worst enemy at the end, but Illinois does deserve some credit too. I'll get obviously a lot more in depth about that. But they absolutely dominated the second half, and especially the fourth quarter specifically. They outscored them 17-0 in the fourth quarter. That certainly helps. The offense was also like in that first half, it just took a second for them to get comfortable, get things going. And once things started to click, boy, did it click. Duke had no answer. The offense was actually outplayed in the first half. They were outgained 240 to 132 in total offensive yardage, and they had given up 4 sacks before halftime as well. The offensive line had. Second half was a lot better for them. They put up 287 yards of offense in the second half. Didn't allow a single sack as well, after allowing 4 in the first half. The biggest deciding factor in this one, without question, was the turnover battle. When Duke had 5 turnovers, and Illinois did not have any. And that is, you're never going to win a game with a -5 turnover margin, right? I mean, they really, again, even their own coach, Manny Diaz, said that they really were their own worst enemy, were his words. And I think that does pretty much sum it up. But I think Illinois does deserve some credit as well for forcing those turnovers, right? Because 4 of those 5 turnovers were fumbles. Only one was an interception. It was a red zone interception by Tanner Heckel that really helped turn the tide as well. That was a big moment, his interception, but 4 fumbles, and they lost every single one of them. Duke clearly has a ball security problem. You cannot deny that. But you got to give credit to Brett Bielema and the Illini because Bielema knew this, and he said after the game that he had put together video and was showing the defense video of Duke specifically having not just Duke fumbles from last season, but specifically them having the ball punched out. And that's exactly what he encouraged them to do. And that's exactly what we got. It's a combination of sloppiness and just smart play and knowing that that was a weakness of this Duke offense and taking advantage of that. Because if you can win the turnover battle, especially by a margin that wide, you are going to win every single game you play when you win the turnover margin 5-0. And that was, and again, mostly all in the second half too. 2 of those fumbles were from Darian Mensah, their quarterback, the transfer from Tulane, who's got a revenge game this week. I think that'll be an interesting game because I am interested to watch Duke now from here on out. Like, no, are they really, more of a mess than we thought, or are they legit? And Illinois just spanked them. You don't really know at week 2. I mean, I think they are a good team. I think Darian Mensah is legit, but he had 2 fumbles and an interception. He was responsible for 3 of their 5 turnovers. He did at the same time have 334 yards, though, passing and 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, definitely it's a very Jameis Winston-esque stat line, if you ask me, right? Good game, tons of yardage, but also turnover trouble. Passing game for the Illini was very good. It was very good as well to help counter all that yardage from Darian Mensah. Luke Allmeyer was fan-freaking-tastic. He was even better than he was against Western Illinois, which, I mean, I get that you're not gunning for it as much against Western Illinois, but he was great in the passing game. He had 296 yards in his own right and 3 touchdowns. He did not have a single turnover. So that clearly was the better quarterback on last Saturday. Their leading receiver, once again, was Hank Beatty with 8 receptions and 128 yards. His breakout is for real. He's done this against Duke as well. Justin Bowick caught another touchdown, 4 catches, 50 yards. Hudson Clement got 2 catches this week. He's starting to get a little more acclimated. He's good. He's going to be a good deep ball threat once he comes to, because clearly Beatty and Bowick are the ones commanding most of the defensive attention, commanding most of the targets. I thought Hudson Clement was going to have a bigger role, right? You guys know that, but I think he's going to be a great deep ball threat once they get him more situated in this offense. He had 2 catches, 39 yards in this one. Colin Dixon also got involved with 3 catches, 36 yards, and a touchdown catch of his own. And then the third touchdown pass that Altmaier had came from Cole Rusk, who I was excited to see find the end zone. He was the only tight end with a catch. And it was the one catch. They kind of went back to their old ways, tight end play. 1 catch, but it was an 8-yard touchdown for Cole Rusk. The run game was fairly involved as well. Only 127 yards combined on the ground, but also 3 touchdowns. When you got 3 touchdowns in the air and 3 touchdowns on the ground, again, you're going to be just fine. There's so many stats that just you really couldn't lose with that. Kane Fagan was the one who led in carries with 17. He had 48 yards, which that's not great for 17 carries. He did have a touchdown, though. Khalil Valentine, 6 carries, 44 yards. He almost matched him. Khalil Valentine was really good in this one. Every single one of his runs had you glued to your screen. And he had a touchdown as well. And then their third rushing touchdown came from Hank Beatty. And this was my favorite play of the entire game. They lined up Beatty. he took a direct snap. It was basically Wildcat, but I don't know if you could actually call it Wildcat since he is not a running back. But it was a direct snap to Beatty, and he just took off. He had great blocking, and he's a very speedy guy. And so it was a 25-yard touchdown run that he had, in addition to his crazy day receiving. Hey, Beatty, that really was like the dagger too. That moment when he ran that in, it's like, oh my God, they're just having fun with them, and this is over. One thing I did know in the run game that was somewhat more of a negative is that Aiden Lawfrey was surprisingly quiet, though. He was the guy in the Western Illinois game week 1, but then he was really held in check. He only got 6 carries and only 5 yards off those 6 carries. So very, very quiet indeed from Aiden Lawfrey. But overall, the run game didn't need to do too much because the pass game was fantastic. And still, they accounted for 3 touchdowns on the ground. Had some help from Beatty, of course, the receiving core, but still, I personally was very impressed just with the offensive performance as a whole. Again, they just absolutely rolled in the second half. They could not be stopped in that second half, whereas the first half, it took a little second to get going. Defensively, as well, I mean, the big story for the defense, again, are those turnovers and training to punch the ball out and doing exactly that. Tanner Heckel had a very nice game. He had that big interception, which I thought was a very big point, turning point on the defensive end. And then he had a sack as well to pair with that. So that was very good for him, showing his versatility as well. Great game out of Tanner Heckel. Miles Scott, Matthew Bailey, Dylan Roysick, all with 6 tackles as well. They all tied for the team lead. And Gabe Yakas only had 1 tackle, but it was a sack, which was always appreciated. That he's already well on his way to being one of the conference's sack leaders on the season. So yeah, I mean that's a good overall look at just the main takeaways, my takeaways from that game. And that really, it was a big test, and they gave them a good scare in the first half too. It wasn't like this was a blowout the whole way. Like, they have experience playing in a close game in the second half now on the road. And that's what you're going to want for that big Indiana game that is real. It's just on the horizon now. It's now 9 days away. It feels a little longer just because of there's another game before then, but it's right around the corner now. And they really passed that test. Man, I did not expect a blowout of this caliber. Again, the final score is a little misleading because it was all second half points, but still, that's crazy to think about that. They ended with these offensive numbers. Because if you would have told me at halftime, I would have thought you were crazy telling me that's how it was going to finish up. Great second half, and great adjustments, great preparation on the defensive end. I just love that Brett Bielema's got people watching film, punching the ball out specifically, and taking advantage of that weakness that Duke had. And they really, really exposed it. Duke looked bad once Illinois got on a roll. They panicked, bro. So to wrap up my thoughts and opinions on the Illinois destruction of Duke in week 2, which has now made us the number 9 team in the country. Illinois is a top 10 team. I don't think that's happened in my lifetime, at least not since I've been conscious of football. But probably even when I was a toddler, I don't think they reached those heights. Incredible to see them that good. So my stars of the game, as I gave on my short analysis that I did for Western Illinois. Every time I say Western, I want to say Western Michigan, and that's why I pause every time in case someone thinks I'm like having a stroke every time I think about Western. It's just confusing that we played Western Illinois, and now we're gonna I'm thinking about Western Michigan because I'm talk about them in just a second. But I do want to give my 3 stars of the game, what I'm dubbing my shining Illini. The 3rd star, Tanner Heckel, on the defensive end, had the best day, in my opinion, defensively, with that huge interception. Was just massive. And he had a sack as well. Like I said earlier, great versatility, very well earned 3rd star to Tanner Heckel. And then I went with 2 offensive players with the other 2 stars, because how could you not when they scored 45 points? The 2nd star, even though he's an honorable mention in my first edition, he's got one now. That is Luke Altmaier. He was stellar in this one. He looked better against Duke than he did at home against Western Illinois, which is just crazy to say out loud. He was 22 of 31, 296 yards, 3 touchdowns, didn't turn the ball over once in a game where the other quarterback did it 3 times. A huge part of why they won. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I think that's undeniable after how he played on the road in a big game like that. Again, will really be put to the test when they face Indiana, but I have all the confidence in the world in him. I have all the confidence in the world in this team after they did that. They are well deserving of that number 9 rank. This team is even better than I thought they were going to be, and I was real high on them. I know it's only 2 weeks. I know this is only 1 game, but wow, did they play well in that game. And wow, did our first star for the 2nd week in a row, wide receiver Hank Beatty, play well. He is broken out. He is a genuine superstar. I thought, okay, good game. He had a fun punt return against Western Illinois, but wow, he really showed out in this one. This is a star in the making if he keeps these numbers up. 8 receptions led the team, 128 receiving yards led the team, also had 25 rush yards, 3rd on the team with a rushing touchdown. And like I said, not only was he just the best statistically, but that his touchdown to me, not only was it very impressive that he scored it on the direct snap, but that was just a big turning point for me. Like that, when he did that, I went, oh, this is over. They've got this. That was the dagger, in my opinion. So shout out to those 3 shining Illini. Had a great time in the Orlando airport, and then on my flight back to Chicago, watching the final minutes once I got on the plane. I had a great time. I know you all had a great time as well. I look forward to having a great time this Saturday when the Illini face the Western Michigan Broncos for their 3rd and final out-of-conference game, hoping to be undefeated going into Big Ten play, going into that Indiana game. Just some final thoughts about Western Michigan. I'm not going to spend a crazy amount of time on them, right? Because I've already done, a more in-depth opponent preview when we had a lot more time in the summer to speculate and things. So go watch that video if you haven't. I don't know what episode that is specifically, but there's a separate video linked on the channel that's just the Western Michigan opponent preview. So if you want more on them, definitely go look at that, even though it is a little outdated. It's from probably June. But it's just some final thoughts about Western Michigan now that the season started and we know a little bit more about the actual team that we'll be facing, which I will be there, by the way. I think I already mentioned that a couple times on past episodes, but I will be at the game this Saturday. If you see me, give me a shout. I would love to hear from you guys, Illini Nation. I'm really excited to, that'll be my first game of the year, and then I'll be at the Indiana game the following week as well. I don't know if I'll be at any other. It is very possible. Gotta wait and see, what my personal schedule looks like. But I'm really excited for these next 2 games. And it is going to be loud, even for this Western Michigan game, after what they were able to do to Duke, after all the hype now that Indiana has given us. I'm really excited for that atmosphere. And it should be another blowout. Western Michigan is 0-2. They have not looked good. They played Michigan State, actually, which is, not even close to Illinois' level, but still, a Big Ten team. So a lot more comparable, and they lost at MSU 23-6. So if they couldn't score against that defense, I don't see how they're going to score against this one. Week 2, then they lost. They lost last week in their home opener to North Texas, the Mean Green. They lost 33-30. That was an exciting game for sure, but still, they couldn't pull it off at home against North Texas. And the Mean Green aren't bad. I certainly have lots of love for the Mean Green because I think they have one of the best names in all of college football. But it's not a good look losing that game. And also just they weren't very competitive with Michigan State at all in week 1. Illinois open or not open actually, because currently the line, Illinois is favored by 27.5 points. I'm surprised it's not more than that, if I'm being fully honest, the way Illinois played, because they would have covered that against Duke even. Oh, wait, no, I guess they just wouldn't have covered that against Duke, just barely. They should be able to hunker down, and that's a revenge game technically as well. If y'all are sad and depressed enough to remember, like I do, in 2016, Western Michigan beat the crap out of Illinois 34-10. That is the last time these two teams have met. That was also in Champaign. So it's technically a revenge game. Holy voice crack. I just getting through this, guys. It's technically a revenge game, at least for me, because I remember that. I'm still pissed about that. I was talking to my brother the other day, the Indiana fan, where, I was asking him more about, how Indiana's doing and stuff. I was talking to him yesterday on the phone, and he's like, I told him actually I'm going to the game, and I said, yeah, Illinois actually lost to Western Michigan the last time they played them. And he laughed. So we have to silence those Indiana haters, silence their laughter, and show them who's boss. We got to pound Western Michigan. This has to be a blowout to keep that momentum from last week and the week before going, so that they are full throttle for that Indiana game, because that is game of the year. And the closer it gets, the more true that becomes. The game time was actually announced for that Indiana game, by the way. That'll be 6:30 Central. That'll be 7:30 local time as well. I think it is very likely that is the college game day game of the week. They haven't announced that yet since it's next week. But, I mean, come on. I think that has to be it. Two ranked teams. They're very close in proximity to each other as well. They're really only a state away. I wonder what the drive to U of I is to Indiana. I know for me it's going to be about a 4-hour drive. It's probably even less than that from Champaign, because that's south. So, I'm really excited to go to this game Saturday, though, by the way. I haven't been to a game since week 2 of last year, actually. The Kansas game, I couldn't get to any other game last year, so I'm really excited to go back. Now with all this newfound energy, that was an energetic crowd for that Kansas game. Little did we know a team that we were going to get this year, and the kind of hype that Illinois has just a year later. Really excited. We got to just pound those Broncos, man. Pause, and then it's on to Indiana. And so I'll be giving you my final thoughts on that next week after, of course, we break down the Western Michigan game. That's what next week's episode will look like. Back at regular time, barring me being deathly ill again. Hopefully we don't have to push to a Thursday again. But so regular time, 7 p.m. Central next Wednesday. Good to say that again. That's when I'll see you for, again, a breakdown of the Western Michigan game, and then the final lookout of that final outlook of that Indiana game. It's been a long day today, guys, if you couldn't tell, but really glad that we still got this episode in, even though I wasn't able to do it yesterday. And thank you so much for being with me tonight. Let's crush Western Michigan, 6 p.m. Central on Saturday. And then the week of reckoning will be upon us when we meet next Wednesday. Thanks for spending your night with me, ILL.